If you don't plan, you're stupid.
Hello and welcome back to If You Don't Plan, You're Stupid with estate planning attorney Andrew Rosenberg. Andy helps South Florida families protect their legacy, avoid probate, and plan for the unexpected. My name is Kevin Rosenquist, and today we're focusing on young families, especially parents with minor children, and why estate planning isn't just for retirees. This episode is all about protecting your kids, naming the right guardians, and setting your family up for the future. Andy, welcome. Good to see you.
Hey, Kevin. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Excited to chat with you today. So, a lot of younger parents might think estate planning is something they can worry about later. That's something they don't have an estate yet. Why is that a mistake?
That is a huge mistake because I will give you firsthand knowledge. I'm a prime example. I had planned, okay, because I am an attorney, so I did plan, but I was swimming one day and I had a massive heart attack at 48 years old.
Holy cow.
Yeah. So that was about 9 years ago. So you can figure I'm 57 now, so I'm getting old. But the point is that you don't know when you won't have a tomorrow. Everyone always likes to plan and think that they could push it off until the next day kind of thing, especially when you're young. But unfortunately, no one knows for sure usually when it's going to be our time. And that's a problem, especially when you have kids. In fact, let me give you an example, Kevin. I have two roommates, college roommates. Both of them dropped dead in their 30s from heart attack.
Wow.
So this does happen. And I hear, as an estate attorney, I hear about it all the time because I'm in that field. But when you're out there, what you do and what other people do, they don't think about it. But it happens more than we want to realize, unfortunately. Yeah. So it's really unfortunate that there's a lot of people out there that just don't plan.
Right.
And the reason they don't plan is because they think they're going to live forever, and also they're going to procrastinate. And that's the biggest concern I have with people. In fact, when I do lectures all the time, Kevin, people procrastinate, and I really try to push them to stop procrastinating because you don't know if you have a tomorrow to plan.
What happens under Florida law if parents do pass away without naming a guardian for their children?
So it's the worst thing that can happen. It's just absolutely horrendous if that does happen, because you got to think about it. You have kids, Kevin?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay, so I got two. They're old now. They're 27 and 24. But when I had young kids, my biggest concern was, what the hell happens if my wife, Debbie, and I pass away? Who's going to take care of these kids? And so I wouldn't want, at least me personally, I wouldn't want the courts to tell me where the kids are going to go. And that's really what's going to happen is if you don't have a will and you pass away, it's called dying intestate. We've talked about it in prior podcasts, you name it. But if you die without a will, it's called dying intestate. And if you don't have any sort of a will, then the courts are going to have to step in and figure out who should be in charge of these kids. And it's until they're 18 years of age. So in the state of Florida, the child is a minor until they're 18. And I got news for you. Even after 18, in my opinion, they're minors, but legally they're considered adults. But that's a whole separate discussion. But yeah, so the courts will make a decision. And then the question becomes, Kevin, how in the world does a court tell someone they're going to watch these kids? So how do they decide who's going to be in charge? That's the whole issue. That's the whole purpose. When you set up a will, so if usually when someone has a birth of a child, usually you think about, oh my God, I need to be responsible and I need to kind of put things in order. And that first thing is going to be, I need to do a will, a basic will, just to have it. And one of the big important things about having a will when you do have minor children is in the will itself, you're going to name who you want to be the guardian of that child. Who's going to be the person in charge to handle that child? Both physically, there's two parts. There's the physically, like where are they going to live situation. And then there's the second part, which is who's going to supervise and watch over the money if there's any money left for the kid?
Mhm.
So you got those two, and it might be the same person for both. But normally in the state of Florida, if you do pass away with nothing, which was your original question, with no estate plan, it's going to go to obviously to the surviving parent. So if you pass away and you have your divorce and you still the mother is still alive, the courts are naturally going to say the mother should be in charge. But if the mother has issues, let's say the mother has a felony conviction, or let's say the mother has a drug problem or something of that nature, or she's just unfit to be a supervisor of this child, then the courts are even going to say that the natural biological parent is not going to be the guardian in that situation.
Mm-hmm. So obviously proper planning, that's what this show is all about. You know, when someone comes into your office and you start working with them about doing, you know, just putting a plan together and they have to name a guardian, do you have any advice on that? I know it's obviously their decision ultimately, but how do you help coach? How do you help them figure out who their best choice would be?
That's a hard one. And what's interesting is when I meet with people and I start asking all these questions, you know, like who's going to take care of your financial stuff if you're disabled? Or who's going to take care of your healthcare decisions if you can't make your own healthcare decisions as an adult? They usually can answer those types of questions. But then when the husband and wife get together or the couple get together, whatever that might be, and they meet with someone like me, they a lot of times they've never talked about this before. So I literally, while I'm having a consultation with these people, they're fighting between themselves.
What's wrong with my sister?
Right, exactly. Like, or I would never have my sister be the person, or your sister be the person.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden, a huge fight breaks out. Like, what the hell are you talking about? My sister's more responsible than your brother, and so it gets to be kind of a nutty situation. So I got a crazy story for you.
I love crazy stories.
Yeah, so family dynamics. This is all about family dynamics, right? Like if you're sitting down and you want to know who are we going to name that's going to be in charge, there's a lot of factors that we got to look at and we'll talk about. But I have a story that happened many, many years ago to my wife, Debbie, and I. We have a lot of friends, and we have some very, very close friends. And a couple that we have known for many years have 3 young kids at the time. And they called us up and they said, "Hey, Andy, we want to take you guys out for dinner." So we said, "Okay, you don't need to take us out. Let's just go out for dinner." So we go out for dinner and they said, "We're taking you out to dinner because we need to discuss something with you." And they start discussing this whole topic of, we have some young kids and they're 8, 6, and 3. And, we have family, all local. We don't trust any of them to be in charge of them. And we said, "We love how your value system is, your wife and you and everything else. And we would want permission to put you guys as the guardian in our wills." And we were like floored because they had a ton of family members.
Well,
and yet
that's a big
they
ask.
didn't want to have named the family members. What's that?
That's a big ask too.
It was a huge ask. So then I basically, my wife and I obviously talked with them about it, and we said, of course we would do that. And by the way, I said, and of course you are paying for dinner tonight because that's a big ask. That's what
you drop a bomb on me like that, you're paying for my steak.
Yeah, exactly. But so fast forward about 15 to 20 years. And then I called them up. I said, "Hey, let's go out to dinner." So we go out to dinner. And I reminded them, I said, "Hey, you remember, we're in charge of your kids." I said, "Well, your last kid just hit 18. So I'm buying dinner because my wife and I are no longer responsible for your kid." True story, my friend. True story.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Boy, trying to raise 5 kids at one time would have not been very easy. That's for sure.
Yeah, no. But if you asked me what are some qualities or things that you need to really consider.
Yeah.
Number one,
you mentioned values. That's a really good point. Like that you shared their values and they appreciated that about you guys.
And when we talk about values, we're talking about maybe educational values,
Sure.
that we want kids to go to college and grad school. It might be religious values. I'm Jewish and they happen to be Jewish. If I wasn't Jewish, that may not have been a good fit for them in that
Yeah.
situation.
Good
So
point.
yeah, there's a lot of values. You know what? Another issue you got to consider. How about maturity? Okay, meaning, like when I was younger, would I want my parents to be the guardians if I were to pass away and my wife were to pass away? But then my parents were in their 70s at the time, 60s and
Yeah.
70s, and getting into the 80s. Would I want them to be in charge of my young kids? No, I
No.
wouldn't. But some people would because they feel that. But I mean, so maturity is an issue. The value system is an issue. How about financial stability?
Yeah,
That's
that's a big one.
another. Yeah, because you got to think about it. And it's not the financial stability of you have assets, meaning because I'm not going to be responsible for taking care of someone else's kids with my assets more likely than not. The parents who passed away hopefully will have money put aside
Right.
to be used for their kid, but I'm responsible to make sure it gets used appropriately. But when I say financial stability, I mean maybe does that person or that couple that you name, are they financially responsible? Do they have steady jobs? Are they good members of society? Stuff of that nature. Also, what about lifestyle and in particular location? What happens if you have a brother, Kevin, that you named, and your brother doesn't live in the same city you live in, and they
Mhm.
move to it? They have to force the kids to move to another state. That's a whole nother discussion. Is it
Sure.
worth it or not? So there's a lot of things to consider in regards to who's the right person. It's a big issue, and it's not something you should take lightly.
Absolutely. Absolutely an important decision. So I'm curious about something. Does naming a godparent have any legal recourse, or is that not involved in legality at all?
So the short answer is no.
Okay.
Okay, but here's how it works. And I'm a godparent, by the way. One of my best friends growing up, he had a son, and he named my wife and I as godparents to his son. And his son, actually, I'm down here in Miami, in Fort Lauderdale. My son went to University of Miami med school and everything else, and we've taken care of him all the way through. And we always take him out to dinner and make sure he's doing okay. So here's how it works: a godparent, their role is more about emotional, religious, and spiritual support, and just there to lend a hand or to get advice from. There is absolutely no legal legal responsibilities as a godparent.
Okay.
That is completely different than a legal guardian. So you got the godparent over on the left, and then you got the legal guardian on the right, if you want to separate the two out. The godparent on the left, no legal rights whatsoever, more a support person and there to help input, etc., give advice and things of that nature. The legal guardian on the right has the legal responsibility to take care of the kid physically, educationally, the general well-being of the kid. They actually have a legal responsibility and are appointed by the court system. So that's the difference between the two.
Okay. Okay.
Did that help?
Yeah,
Did that make
definitely. I'm just curious. Yeah, because I mean, I think I have a godparent. I guess I don't know.
we never did godparents for whatever reason with my kids, but I've been named a godparent. So,
Mhm.
and it was a great honor.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah, we didn't do godparents with my son either, but yeah.
Kind of like you know what? It's kind of like being a grandparent. Supposedly, I hear you get all the benefits of it, but no
No
responsibility, and then you can turn
responsibility.
back.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
What are some of the most common mistakes that you've seen young families make when they're making their estate plan? Besides just not planning, what are some of the other mistakes that you've seen some of the younger families make?
That's probably the number one mistake is not or failing to plan. That I would, if you gave me a list of the top five, literally that would be number one. Not planning at all, meaning not having a will, right? Not naming a guardian in the will. That is huge. Or not updating. Okay, not updating on a consistent basis, because I always tell people that when we come to estate planning, it's not static. It's dynamic in nature, meaning things change. People die. People come in and out of favor with you. What happens if you name your sister as the guardian, and then God forbid you get in a huge fight with your sister and you don't want her to be the person in charge, and you never change your legal documents and something happens? It's a problem. So not naming anybody or not staying up to date on things are, in my opinion, some of the most important things to deal with. Also, let's talk about, it's not all about legal. Let's talk about financial. Okay. So not putting money away for your kids. Okay. That's a huge, not having an emergency reserve or a budget for that, not putting away for college is a problem for people. Not understanding their insurance issues, right? I mean, I hate to tell you how many people I hear pass away and they don't have any insurance whatsoever for the kids.
Yeah.
And now they're left with nothing. And now the guardian, what's the guardian supposed to do? They're going to take care of the person, but now they're going to be financially responsible. So those are some of the things that I would say happen that people are not taken care of.
You mentioned the thing about your example of, oh, you have your sister as your guardian, but then you get in a fight with your sister and all that. How often do you think people should revisit this? Because obviously, if you're fighting with your sister, the first thing you're going to think about is not, oh boy, I better change my estate plan, my will. How often should people put in their calendars to say, hey, let's go over this one. Let's just do a once over.
My clients, I get together with them once a year, but that's just me. I tell most people usually every 3 to 4 years is when you should probably sit down and review everything on the legal side to make sure it's still up to date and things haven't changed. Or something happens major in your life, right? Someone passes away, another person, gets married, things of that nature, or divorced, obviously. Things like that might happen. Those types of things, then you should probably revisit, because you got to make sure you didn't name that person, or maybe you did and you want to add the spouse on as well.
Okay. And for anybody listening who knows they really need to get off their butt and do this, what's a good first step?
First step, number one is talk with your spouse before you meet with someone like me. Okay.
That's a good point.
Talk to your spouse and discuss this issue. Okay. Because I do not want to see you guys fighting in front of me and having this huge argument when you guys this is a private discussion. I can't help make a decision for you. You guys know your family and you know your friends. Talk. Okay. This is a major decision. When my kids were younger, I did not travel when we flew, and it was my wife and I did not fly together with my wife if we were going without kids. We actually flew separate airlines in case, God forbid, one of them went down. That's how nuts I was.
I've actually heard of people doing that, so I don't think you're that nuts.
But the point is that you be responsible, guys.
Yeah.
Just that's all this is about. Be responsible. You now have a young person that you brought into this world. You need to take care of him or her if you're not here. That's what this is all about. And remember, listen, I have a book that I wrote and my podcast. What's it called? It says, if you don't plan, you're stupid. I mean that. If you don't plan for this guardianship situation, you got no one to blame but yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, good advice for sure. All right. Well, if you're raising kids and you don't have a plan, you're leaving your future to chance. Visit rosenberglawfirm.net to start protecting what matters most. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Leave us a review. We very much appreciate it. Andy, so great chatting with you today. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Kevin, as always.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.